Over the weekend at Glastonbury, this is the UK's biggest music festival, I've never heard of these people. It's a British rock punk duo by the stage name Bob Vylan. And in this festival, they started some anti-Israel chants that play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. Here is some of that.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
That's a lot of people chanting about death.
Death to the IDF! Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah.
So, like I said, I had never heard of this band until like literally 5 minutes ago. But it's apparently like Rage Against the Machine, but they're way worse at music. And let's play one more. It's Heard You Want Your Country Back, Shut the F Up. This is in England, to a crowd waving Palestinian flags.
Your country back. Shut the up. I do want your country back. Well, shit, me too. I do want your country back. I do want your country back. Shut the up.
The moment you drop them on his head.
Well, the sad thing is, Jaco, all of those people seem to be in agreement with him.
No, that's hello anti-Semitism, hello hatred of Israel, hatred of Jews, and this is where I'm going to say, very careful here in America, the pundits in the GOP, on the right, supposed friends of ours that find themselves on the wrong side of this conversation frequently. And so I just want to say, if you want to fall off the cliff in that direction, that's who you're partnering with. Remember when Biden was in office and we say, hey, no vote is a vote for Biden, or this, you pick your poison. This is the same thing here. You very quickly, when you're anti-Israel, find yourself amongst the scum. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So careful.
I mean, here's the thing. It wasn't just death to the IDF, which, I mean, that's a violent, like, death to the IDF. It speaks for itself. But it was also from the river to the sea. Which, we know what that means. They don't think that Israel should have the right to even exist. Yep. Heard you want your country back, shut the F up. That also should be self-explanatory. There are a lot of people in the UK who are not happy with the fact that all of these Muslim communities have moved in and taken over and in certain cases changed these communities permanently. And so obviously that's happening over there, and we can have that conversation too. But what has happened since this took place over the weekend, this group had their top 3 Hollywood talent agency, UTA, that dropped them. They were canceled from an American tour that they were part of that was scheduled to begin in Washington in October because the State Department revoked their visas. Good. Which was like, and that's the conversation I want to have is, was that justified? I think yes, because this is what they said. They said the State Department has revoked the U.S. visas for members of the Bob Vylan band in light of their hateful tirade at Glastonbury, including leading the crowd in death chants. And here's the catch. Foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. So to me, it sums it up there in that last sentence. Did they say anything about America? No. But that type of hatred and violence, we don't have to let just anybody in. This is the United States of America. We should be very selective when we decide who to let into our country, even if for a brief amount of time.
Yeah, and the thing, too, to remember with these people is they're not discerning between Israel and America and Europe. Yeah. All they see, because they are like an entropic force of anti-civilization. Yep. These people have never cultivated anything that would be recognized by us as civilization. And so when they look at like the Western world, which I don't know if I would include Israel in that necessarily. I think they're certainly closer to that than their neighbors, obviously. But they view all of that to basically be an insult to themselves because we have colonized them and we have ruled over them. And ironically, they're still demanding to be governed by us and live under our standards of living when they come to our country and try to like recolonize us, I think is the phrase. And so, if I'm working in Washington and I want to keep these people out of the country anyway, and there are a lot of Jewish people in politics who obviously want to keep these people out of the country, I might be like, hey, shouldn't we do it because of anti-Semitism? That sounds like a great idea. And then they'll agree with me, and then we get Stephen Miller to, deport all of these people. And so I'm totally fine with that, because I really believe that decolonization was the defining issue of the 20th century, because that is what is caused for all of this migration into Europe and into America from these countries which are just completely incompatible with our ways of life. And unfortunately, like I like to quote from President Trump's book, Time to Get Tough, we're going to have to get tough. It is time for that, and we're going to have to say no to these people. You're not welcome, because it's not even like they're keeping to themselves, quietly assimilating. They are hostile to us. Look at the ones who they elect into Congress. Right. And I don't even know why we allow people like that to be in Congress in the first place, but they clearly have no intention of assimilation. They are most excited, not when talking about Thomas Paine and John Locke, but when talking about this idea of getting back at us for what?
Mm-hmm.
I miss this guy.
I know.
I just love your mind. I mean, think about it. We're gonna yell basically death to Jews, right?
Yeah.
Death to the IDF, which, for those of you who don't know, every single boy and girl, has to serve in the IDF.
That's a great point. So no one can say like, oh, he just meant law enforcement.
No, come on.
Required.
You say death to the IDF. You're not talking about the military. Once IDF, always IDF.
Right.
You can always be called, they call reservists back in the war now. They were 60-something, 70 years old. I don't care if you're hitting a typewriter or whatever you're doing, but you're serving. So it's death to Israel, death to the IDF. No, they all serve. Gal Gadot, Hollywood actress, served. You served. So it's all of a sudden they're going to land in the U.S. to come take our taxpayer money for ticket and all of a sudden love the American Jews? Right. Heck no, you're not coming here.
Yeah.
You're not coming here.
And I know, there are people on the other side who would say, well, everyone, if they, you shouldn't take something that should be protected under the First Amendment, and
they don't have First Amendment rights.
Exactly.
Are they Americans?
Exactly. And it's like, no, you must be mistaken.
You need a visa. You don't have a constitution.
Exactly right. Exactly. And it really has been really refreshing to see this administration get tough on how, they're shutting down all of these visas until they can figure out how to properly vet these people on social media. I mean, this is people overseas, all of these foreigners think that it's just some sort of a right that they should have to be able to come over here whenever they want. And it's like, no, this is the greatest country in the world. And we have to protect that. And the way that we protect that is being very, very choosy about who we welcome into our country. It's just that simple. And if you are going to perpetrate hatred and glorify violence, you're not welcome here. I mean, it's crazy to me that that's even a thing. Like, yes, we should be very, very selective on who we allow into this country.
The problem is we're too nice as people. And what I mean by that is if you try to explain, like I try to get my mom to understand this stuff, and I'm like, Mom, you need to understand that they don't even have words in their I guess their first language for something like a right. They don't have like a common law tradition. So when they say I have a right to this, they don't mean that in the sense of like, they literally just think that's another word for I want this.
Entitlement.
And she laughs and she's like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, no, it's not a joke. Like I'm not saying like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if, no, this is how they think. These are not people who are descended. Their culture is not, they don't have a common law tradition where there are things like rights and duties and responsibilities. They use the word want or right because that's what they hear on TV as a stand-in for I am entitled to this simply because why shouldn't I be? I mean, it's like when there was I think they were doing like interviews with people in New York about this like mayor race, and they were talking about, we want free this, free that. They are not having an internal conversation with themselves about the logistics behind, a government-run organization versus the private sector. In their minds, they see the world around them, and none of it makes sense to them. They don't understand how public transit works. They don't understand how money is distributed because in their countries they don't have that because for whatever reason. And so they just sort of think that all of these things kind of work themselves out through this like omnipotent force in the sky. And so why not have that omnipotent force in the sky also give them the right to XYZ? Mm-hmm. These people are frankly and tragically not that mentally sophisticated. And as a result of that, they become hostile to people who will not just give them free stuff. It does not occur to them that it doesn't work like that. If you're refusing that to them, then they become hostile to you and they want to kill you.
Well, because they think they're owed it. I want to say one thing in our country. You just nailed something. Scripture, and I'm always going to go back to the Word of God. Niceness, being nice, is not a fruit of the Spirit. Yeah. Kindness is. We are to be kind, but kindness corrects. Kindness sets boundaries.
We literally just had this conversation about the
that's
LGBT
biblical.
community. Yes.
God does not call you to be nice. Yes. When you're nice, you're getting a 12-year-old's breast cut off.
Right.
Because you're nice.
Right.
Yep. You don't want to offend somebody.
You don't want to offend them.
No, you know what's kind? It's when you go to a brother that steps out of the line and say, bro, you're out of line. That's kind. That kindness is not just let it happen, que sera, sera. It's setting boundaries. And it's about time we're kind and set boundaries around the country. Yep. Because we have enough little Tasmanian devil terrorists in this country who are Americans that causing terror. We don't need to import
the
lunatics from the outside.
And that's exactly, I know we got to go to break here, but that's exactly the point is there are a lot of people who would say, well, there are a lot of, when you say, well, we don't want to bring in murderers and rapists and, third world crazy people who don't understand and don't want to assimilate. And they're like, well, there are murderers who are United States citizens too. It's like, right. And we can't do anything.
Our murderers.
Yeah, we can't do anything.
We don't need yours.
We can't deport them, but we certainly don't need to bring more in. Right. I don't understand what that point is they keep trying to make. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.